Hi there, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a simple animated effects prop that uses a series of still images to create the animation. Hi there, I'm David Arundel, otherwise known as the Extraordinary Tourist and sometimes known as the Lazy Animator. And in this video tutorial I'm going to show you how to make an animated effects prop using Inkscape that uses frame-by-frame animation to create the actual effect. And just to give you a look at an example of what I'm talking about, I've got this prop here set up in Cartoon Animator. It's the typical comic effect that you might see in something like the old Batman TV series where a word flashes onto the screen and then disappears. And I'll just hit the play button on this so you can see what it looks like. Now this particular prop, you could use it full screen like this, and I've actually slowed the animation down a bit just so that you can see what's happening, in that each letter is coming onto the screen one by one and then it's fading out. But you could also use this as an effect sort of next to something like, say, a hammer banging on a wall. You could actually see the hammer and having this little bang noise or prop effect happen just as the hammer hits the wall. So that's the kind of thing we're looking at. It's a vector-based prop. I'm going to be using Inkscape to create a similar prop with a different word, and I'm just going to get straight into it. So to get started, if you want to try this for yourself, I got these particular props from this website, publicdomainvectors.org. You can see here, this is the bang vector that I got. It's completely free from this site. You just download it and it downloads as an SVG file. So the one we're going to be doing is this thwack one, and I've already downloaded this, so we'll go straight into doing that. And then we've got the prop here in Inkscape as an SVG file. You see it's got all these various layers here. Now I'll make this bigger so you can see what we're doing. And what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to separate all these letters. I'm going to separate them out so that we get 6 frames that eventually go from one letter to all of the letters being spelled out, and each one of those frames will be a separate sprite. Something to note on here, an issue that I had. I need to go into document properties, over to here. This is document properties, and you'll see I've got the custom format set to pixels, and the width is 435 by 157. I believe with Cartoon Animator the minimum prop size is 400 by 400, so you need to sort of check this and make sure you've got a decent document size. That's a bit small for what I want, so I'm going to click the linking of the aspect ratios so I don't distort this, and then I'm going to change the change the bottom one to 1000 pixels. You'll see when I hit enter the top pixels change accordingly so that things stay the same. I'm going to resize this, and my line work's gone a bit thin, so not the width, that one's the line work. Thicken that up. 16, there we go. Right, so what I'm going to do is duplicate this thing 6 times for my 6 frames. That's my 6 frames, and then I'm going to turn the bottom one off, or turn each one off. We'll just be working with the top one to start with. Before I go any further, we'll save what we've got. This one is just going to be the T, so I'll go into the path name and get everything off of here that is not the T. Do the same thing, get rid of everything that's not the T. Go to the next path. And the next. There we go, that's the first letter. Close that group up, and we go on the next frame. We want everything deleted that is not the T and the H this time. So do that again through the process, but leave everything that is the H. There we go. So you get the idea that what's going to happen when we bring this together in the actual animation. It'll start with the T, and then the next frame you get the H, and so on and so on. So I'm going to go through and do the rest of these frames, and then we'll come back. There we go, I've separated all my letters, and I've also, in the folders, I've given the top folder names, the actual names of the letters that appear, so I know what's what. And you'll see if I go through and gradually turn these off, you'll see that each letter disappears. So these are all my individual frames. We turn them back on. Now the next thing I need to do is export these as individual vector sprites. I'm going to go into export. And we want to make sure that only the selected group is exported. So I've got the T selected to start with. Okay. Export selected only selection. We want to export as an SVG file. Call this one T. Right, we'll move to the next one. TH. Go back to export. You'll notice this says save as type PNG even though we've got it set to SVG down here. I'm not sure why that's happening. No way I can change that to SVG, but I can assure you it is saving as an SVG file. So just go save, go to the next one. I'll just run through and do all these. There we go, I'll just save that document, and I'll just quickly show you that these things are saving as a vector, saving as SVG here. And if I open one of these up and with Inkscape, see over here, file in Inkscape, and if we select any of the layers, you see they're all vectors, so we're all good to go. So now I'm finished in Inkscape, so I'm going to close those down, and for the rest of this I think I'm going to take my face off the screen so that you can see everything that I'm doing. We don't need this anymore. Go with a new file, new project, and I'm going to start by dragging in the full word vector prop onto the stage in Cartoon Animator and say prop, and there you go. It opens up in the composer and the bone editor is ready to go. We don't actually need to give it any kind of bones here because it's just an animated prop. But because it's going to be writing the lettering from left to right, I found it's a good idea to open up the sprite window. See, that's on layer 1 as a sprite. And just move the sprite itself so that the bottom corner is on the world axis, which is this blue and red cross here, so it lines up with that, and that'll make it easier to line up the other sprites when you bring them in. So that now that I have that there, I can start bringing in my other sprites. You can also rename these in here if you want. Select the one next to it, get the next sprite. I'm going to go in reverse order, and because we lined up the previous one with the world axis, do that here. You'll see when I switch back, roughly keeps it in about the same spot, give or take a coordinate or two. I'm not going to worry about being perfectly lined up because this is an action word, so a little bit of vibration or whatever when it appears isn't going to be a problem. So go to the next sprite, add that one in, line that one up, next sprite. Now depending on the prop that you're making, you don't have to line everything up with the world axis like this. I'm just doing it because it's text and it makes it easy to line things up. We'll go to the next one, TH. And then the last one, T. See if I click through these now, everything is pretty nicely lined up, and this world axis will be the rotation point for the word on the stage. So that's my prop done. We'll get out of the character composer now, and you'll see here it is on the stage, and the pivot point is right on the world axis. You move that around, and if I try to rotate this, you'll see that it spins from that corner. If I wanted to, I could probably move the world axis now, have it in the center, but I think that's fine where it is. So I'm just going to save this prop positioning so I get a good thumbnail, say the first time. So we'll click on that and go save. We'll call it whack. And to animate the prop, we just need to turn on the timeline, make sure this is selected, keep this relevance back on so that I can only see this. And to get the animation to work, all we're going to be doing is swapping the sprites. There's nothing else to do, so we're going to motion file, and the first sprite that we want to show is not the full word, it's actually just the letter T. We'll open up the sprite layer menu and we'll switch to the letter T. And we'll go 2 frames ahead, so we're animating on 2s basically instead of 1s. We're changing the frame every 2 frames, and we'll switch to the next sprite. So we've now got another sprite in there, and if I go backwards, see it flips onto the next one. We go 2 frames ahead, change to the next one, and I'll keep doing that until we've finished and got the full word. So you can see there, that's the full word showing, and I thought a nice way to remove the effect is just to have it fade out after it's been shown. So we give it, so instead of 2 frames, we'll go 4 frames ahead. This time we're going to adjust the opacity, which you'll see on the sprite editor. There's this actual opacity slider here. So we can create a keyframe for that. We'll open up the motion file, and you'll see, or the motion track, there's this opacity track to turn on. Now this is the opacity for the actual prop that you're using, not to be confused with this opacity here, which also will cause the prop to change in opacity. So you'll see if I click on it here, and I've got this opacity track selected. I have to turn the sprite thing off. You can see I can adjust the opacity with that slider, but that particular slider won't save with the motion file when I come to save it later, so we can't use that one. We have to use the opacity that is in the motion track, which I turned on, and that opacity off, not motion track, and make sure this opacity is turned on. And you'll see if I double click in that track on the frame that I want a keyframe to occur, I'll double click there. You'll see it's brought up the sprite editor box, which is where that opacity is. If I double click again, no, I'm going to have to actually change the settings. So I'll just do that to make a sprite or a keyframe appear. And now I just want it to fade out over the next 4 or 5 frames. So I'm going to take it up to frame 20 and then put this slider all the way to 0. So now you'll see this word appears and then fades out. So we're completely finished with the sprite editor now. The next thing we want to do is actually save this animation with the prop so that we can use it anytime we want, and we don't have to do all of this setup just to use it. So we go collect clip, and in the collect track we just click at the start of the animation and go through to where the end of it is. I think is frame 20. Yep, frame 20. Once you have that selected, right click on the collect clip track and go add to action menu and give it a name. I'm going to call it thwack dash fade out. Okay, and you'll see if I now right click on the prop and look at the action menu, we've got thwack fade out. What I'm going to do is actually save this prop there where we had it. I'm going to resave it over the top of the one I did save, so we're just going to go overwrite. Okay, now that's prop is saved, and hopefully it's worked all okay. So I'm going to go because I'm about to do new file and wipe out everything I've just done. We go new project, I mean. Now if we double click on this prop and bring it back in, see it comes in with just the first sprite there. And how you would use this prop is I could have started with the prop being invisible. That makes it really hard to position, so I've left it with the first letter visible so that it's easy for you to position it wherever you want. So say if I want it over here, and I don't want it to actually appear straight away, so say going to the timeline, so we want it to start on frame 30, we could go, at this point we could make it invisible. We'll just turn it off like that, and then say frame 30 we make it visible, and we right click on the action menu and apply the motion that we just set, and there we go. Bring the length of the timeline in so it's a little bit slow, and now I'll just play exactly what I've got there. It's going to go on a loop. I've got the loop selected here, and there you go. That's your animated prop that uses a sequence of images to create the animation. Of course you can make that go faster or slower and select this icon, which is the speed of the animation, and click and drag. Let's say instead of being that long we want it to go a lot slower, over 70 frames, and then loop. See what that looks like. There you go. You can make it go slower, or you could make it go quicker if you wanted to. Take that down, make it go really quick. Or put in that speed, and if we select this one we could loop it a couple of times. We wanted someone to get sort of 3 hits in. There you go. I hope you found that tutorial interesting. That's how you make an animated effects prop using vector images that animates using a series of still images. Let me know if you like this tutorial, and if you have any ideas for other tutorials that you might like me to do, and I'll certainly consider them. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye for now.